Hey guys, Israel with another devastating strike in Rafah, killing 45. CNN has gruesome video, and I'm going to describe some of it to you guys, and then I'm going to tell you what Trump would do. I'm telling you what Biden did. I'm going to tell you Piers Morgan even saying indefensible, indefensible. Well, I'll push back on if that's enough. We'll get to that in a minute. And the head of Human Rights Watch and a Holocaust survivor saying this is obviously a genocide. So I've got all that for you guys. Obviously, we do the show normally Monday through Friday live at 6 p.m. Make sure you're checking it out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Today's Memorial Day, so I'm giving this update for you guys. So let me get to it. Jeremy Diamond describes the video. Their blood-curdling screams tell the story of the unfolding horror more than words ever could, he explains. But it's only after the bodies are pulled out of the inferno that the scale of this attack becomes clear. So they hit a refugee camp, which they promised would be safe. Of course, it wasn't safe. And the reason why this one is different is because there's video of it. So before, when Israel murdered tens of thousands of civilians in Gaza, if you can't see the burning babies, they go, "What? We're the most moral army on earth." And they were all terrorists anyway. And then we only got Hamas. But in this one, they have very clear video of burning people being pulled out of the rubble. And I'm really look, guys, I love the West. I came to America. I love America. But sometimes the blindness of the West is infuriating. What do you think happens when you drop bombs on people? You light them on fire, you incinerate them, or concrete falls on them and it crushes them to death. The deaths themselves are horrific, but only, and why do you think Israel's doing a massive uh, blockade of journalism in Gaza? Because if you saw what they were doing, you would all be sickened and horrified. I mean, look, anyone who sees the videos go, okay, that's it. I'm out. I'm out. Unless they're like have a totally cold black heart and they go, oh, burning babies. As long as they're Palestinians, I don't mind. Oh my God, they killed 1,200 of ours. So let's kill 35,000. If you count the bodies under the rubble, 45,000. Who cares about their burning grandmothers? But when you see it with your own eyes and you see the dead babies that they're holding, and you see the children who've been burned, and those are the ones that survived. There, one CNN report shows the children's eyes are glued shut from being burned, and they're screaming in pain. The only people screaming in pain more than the children who were burned, either to death or near death, the ones that are still screaming, are the parents. The parents seeing their children and their babies being burned to death. What do you think happens when they drop these bombs on people? Bombs, by the way, paid for by us. They all took money out of our taxes, out of our hard-earned money. And by the way, Israel's now has all of these things we don't have. They have paid family leave, they have universal health care. So every Israeli is super sacred. And God bless them. I love it. Every society should be like that. But we're not sacred. The Palestinians are not sacred. The Palestinians are here to be burned to death over and over and over. What do you think? Already at the minimum, 25,000 women and children have been murdered. If you think that that's all an accident, or oops, oh man, I meant to kill a terrorist, but golly gee, I accidentally murdered a stadium full of women and children. You're so biased. You're totally blinded and cannot see straight. This is an absolute moral outrage with anyone with a scintilla of morality, with anyone who isn't deeply, deeply racist, who thinks, Palestinian lives, who cares? They had it coming. Muslim lives, they're the violent ones. Murder them, they're the violent ones. And yes, some people now in Israel has become so enraged, the settlers, the fundamentalists, not all Israelis, but those people, the ones that are blocking the humanitarian aid trucks, the settlers, and the idea of protecting the settlers, not the starving Palestinians. And if you're so blinded, you could only see one perspective. My tribe is the best. My tribe is moral. All other tribes are evil and we should kill them all. By the way, Hamas thinks that way. A lot of tribes think that way. The fundamentalists of all tribes think that way. But this tribe, including America, has the worst, most lethal bombs and weapons ever created. And we keep dropping them on Muslim after Muslim. In my lifetime, we've dropped hundreds of thousands of bombs on Muslims, while all the while American media pretends they're the violent ones. So, look, so if you're blinded by your bias and you will only listen to someone who's on your side, okay, then let me share this gentleman with you guys. First of all, even Benjamin Netanyahu saying, oh, it was a tragic mistake. What he means is it was a tragic mistake that it got taped. When us far right-wing fundamentalist zealot terrorists like Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich, when we murder people and burn them alive, you guys don't get to see it. And then we pretend we're a moral army, that all of the tens of thousands of dead civilians were all, oops, a mistake. And then morons in America believe it. Those morons are called cable news anchors. And they spread the propaganda and the poison that Palestinian lives don't matter and that you could slaughter them endlessly and we should pay for it. And that we should pay for their slaughter. That's the reality. Kamrul Hassan, thank you for becoming a member. Look, guys, can you tell we're not backed by the powerful? Can you tell we're not backed by giant corporations or by the establishment? Do you see anyone in American cable news saying the most obvious things in the world like I am? They're like, oh, well, don't be passionate. I mean, well, on October 7th, you could be passionate about October 7th. And I was. And they're like, okay, good job, Cenk. Good boy. You care about the right civilians. Now, all of a sudden, when I also care about Palestinian civilians, boo, boo, you shouldn't be passionate like this. You shouldn't raise your voice. You should remember Palestinian lives don't matter at all. Crush them, kill them, incinerate them. Who cares? They're just dirty Muslims. They're the violent ones. And American media, if you don't realize you're doing that, 98% of you do that implicitly in everything you say. Now, remember how the Hamas slaughtered the Israeli civilians, but Israel, the most moral army on earth, just accidentally happened to kill 30 times that number. But they're awesome and wonderful, and that's why our government just sent them $20 billion to murder, accidentally kill a bunch of not innocent Palestinians who are, of course, all associated with Hamas and voted for Hamas, so they're all terrorists, kill all their civilians. Well, am I American media? Did I implicitly say all that? Yes, you did. If you don't realize you're saying it, wake up. Almost every cable news anchor in the country is deeply racist against Palestinians and bigoted against Muslims. Our lives don't mean a thing to them. You're fodder for Israel's military and the American military. We'll bomb you in Iraq. We'll bomb you in Afghanistan. We'll bomb you in Yemen. We'll bomb you all over the world. We'll bomb you in Gaza. We'll bomb you in Lebanon. We'll bomb you in Syria. We'll bomb you in Iran and call you the violent ones. I charge you, American media, you are guilty. That's what you've done my entire life. You have devalued Muslim lives and let these governments slaughter us endlessly while you do racist stereotypes claiming that Muslims are the violent ones as they're being massacred at massive scale. Austin Kirchhofer, thank you, brother, for joining. You guys allow us to be on. Otherwise, you're not going to get this strong voice. You're going to get a weak voice. My corporate advertisers don't want me to be passionate. Walmart wants you to think that killing Palestinians is awesome. We have no opinion on it. Shh, be vanilla. But whatever you do, do not speak against the powerful. Well, members allow us to speak against the powerful. So here's back to my point about people from your own tribe, if you find them more credible. I don't give a goddamn about the tribes. Arya Nair, co-founder of Human Rights Watch, is a Holocaust survivor. And he says in the beginning, he did not think that Israel was doing a genocide, and he thought they had a right to retaliate, even though he's the head of Human Rights Watch. And they had a right to defend themselves. Well, look, first of all, everybody thinks they have a right to defend themselves. The question is, how? How do you do it? Do you do collective punishment? Do you do genocide and ethnic cleansing? Or do you do something that actually defends your people? And obviously, this is not defense. Anyway, let him speak. He said, I thought Israel had a right to retaliate. And I'm going to get to Trump in a second. I thought Israel had a right to retaliate against Hamas. And I thought Israel had a right to try to incapacitate Hamas so that it would never be able to do anything like that again, he says. But I was disturbed by some of the actions of Israel, by the use of the very large weapons, 2,000-pound bombs, which are utterly inappropriate in a crowded urban area. Well, he's absolutely right. And he said the retaliation has gone, quote, far overboard. He said there was, after months of Israeli blocking of humanitarian aid, he said, quote, the severe obstruction of the delivery of humanitarian assistance led to famine in Gaza. He said, I am now persuaded that Israel is engaged in genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. What has changed my mind is its sustained policy of obstructing the movement of humanitarian assistance into the territory. So he goes on and on, explains how they block it, how they protect the settlers who are blocking the aid, how the government blocks it. And he's like, look, it was one thing when you were defending yourself. And he's a Jewish Holocaust survivor. He's like, of course I want Jews to defend themselves. And I didn't call it a genocide or ethnic cleansing and being, of course not. But then I see 2,000 pound bombs. And that's exactly what I was saying throughout. These are not to be used in civilian areas. America, in all its monstrosity in Iraq, never dropped a bomb larger than 500 pounds in a civilian area. And that was already terrible. This is 4 times larger. That's why you're seeing the 45 people burned to death with your own eyes today. Israel claims, well, we think we might have gotten 2 Hamas leaders. I mean, the other 43 kids and grandmothers. Who gives a damn? They're Palestinians, right? Oh, it's on video. Tragic mistake. Okay. Through, and thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate every member. And so this gentleman, Aryan Ayer, after having survived the Holocaust, can tell you, and with great clarity, what a genocide looks like. And he's like, if you're blocking humanitarian assistance to a point where 1 million people are starving, and we can see them, the kids are skin and bone. We see them starving to death on TV. And you're dropping these monstrous bombs. And you know how many Israel has dropped on Gaza? Gaza's the size of Las Vegas. They have dropped well over 30,000 bombs. Imagine being in Vegas and they're dropping 30,000 different bombs. And some of them are gigantic 2,000 pound bombs. Maybe the people of Israel don't understand it because Hamas has peace shooters. They're like, oh my God, Hamas is going to do so much damage. Well, Hamas fired back some rockets today. Let's be fair. Of course, all of them were struck down by Iron Dome, which we gave them. Good. I'm glad it protects their civilians. Except one got through. Oh my God, how many Israelis are dead? And I literally thought, oh, one got through. How many Israelis are dead? I don't want that to happen. It partly damaged a house. Their bombs are like made out of water pipes or something. They're tiny. They could barely damage the exterior of a house. Meanwhile, Israel has the biggest bombs in the world and is dropping them right in the middle of civilians. This is so wildly disproportionate. That's why the head of Human Rights Watch and a Holocaust survivor says, stop! What are you doing? And he's saying the same thing I am, not just for the sake of the Palestinians, but for the sake of Israel. Do you have any idea how horrific you look to the whole world? And they don't, because of Israeli propaganda and American propaganda. They're in their own bubble and they don't realize they're in a bubble. They're like, oh yeah, we're so moral, right? Oh, let's kill more Muslims, America. Yeah, America says, yeah, Israel, let's kill more Muslims. We're so moral. But the rest of the world do not see you as moral. They see you as despicably immoral. I don't care if you claim, oh, it's anti-American or it's anti-Semitic. You can claim any nonsense, mythological thing that you want, but we all have eyes and we all have ears. Aaron Sick, thank you for becoming a member. So finally, we get to the monster called Donald Trump, because the monster called Joe Biden brought this to you. He has funded this genocide. Before, like in the beginning stages, when people on the left started calling him Genocide Joe, I was like, well, that's a bit much, man. That is a super harsh thing to call someone, right? But since then, it's been what, 7 months? And at every turn, Joe Biden has said, please, Israel, here's another $1 billion. Here's another $2.5 billion. Here's another $17 billion. Here's more weapons and more weapons. The line he drew is the dumbest, stupidest, smallest, most non-existent. Oh, we are no longer going to send you 2,000 pound bombs if you keep going in Rafah particularly. Wow. And then he sent another $1 billion in weapons right afterwards because Netanyahu yelled at him. AIPAC yelled at all the corrupt Democrats and Republicans, so he panicked. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Netanyahu. I'm so sorry for not sending you 2,000 pound bombs to murder more Palestinians that are all trapped in Rafah. Oh, he just send you another $1 billion. And he did. That's a fact. You could look it up. Okay, so I'm not interested in Joe Biden. Joe Biden has funded this genocide of Gaza. He's a terrible, deeply immoral human being. Deeply immoral. Green Pixie, thank you for gifting a membership. So listen, guys, why do I say he's like you hear the propaganda on TV? Joe Biden, what a swell guy from Scranton. What an old grandpa, lovely guy. Oh, what a wonderful guy. Oh, golly gee, he happens to agree with Israel, our beloved ally. And said, no, he's funding it. He's super happy to have Israel obliterate Gaza. If he wasn't happy, he wouldn't send them $20 billion to do it. If I didn't like what somebody was doing, I wouldn't send them $20, let alone $20 billion. These are indisputable facts brought to you by our members. All right. Finally, so since Joe Biden's such a monster, how about Donald Trump? Well, Donald Trump says that he said this to donors because don't get it twisted. Donald Trump is another elitist prick. That's all he is. He's a wannabe billionaire who's been sucking up to the richest. Hold up, please let me in the club. I know I'm a moron and I bankrupt every company, but my daddy was rich. Please let me in the club. He's not a populist. He's not anti-establishment. He's been licking the ass of the establishment his whole life, dying to get into their club. So what does he say to the donors, the only people he's honest to? He's like, oh, this American student protesters, the wonderfully decent people who actually stand up for peace, even though they're not Palestinians and they're not Muslims, the great majority of them. In fact, a lot of them are Jewish, and they're wonderful human beings who stood up for peace. He's like, I'll deport them. I'll kick them out of the country if they dare protest Israel. Don't worry, donors. Anybody who criticizes Israel gets deported from America. That's what Donald Trump is promising. And then he said about the peace movement that he'll set it back 25, 30 years. Here, I'll give you a direct quote. One thing I do is any student that protests, I throw them out of the country. It doesn't get any clearer than that. Then he says, well, if you get me elected, and you should really be doing this, he's saying to the donors, if you get me reelected, we're going to set that movement back 25 or 30 years. Remember how a lot of MAGA thinks he's anti-war? He just promised to set back the peace movement 25 to 30 years if he's elected. Who did he make that promise to? Not you guys, not the voters, not MAGA, not independents, not American citizens. He made that promise to rich donors. He said, don't worry, you rich donors who love war and who hate anything that is just and decent in the world. I will deliver for you. I will set back the peace movement by 25, 30 years. You will have glorious, endless war that you could profit more off of. And I'm sure the donors went nuts, probably a standing ovation. Yes, more profit from death. Yes. And that's who Trump is. So our choices are the worst. James Wigton, thank you for becoming a member. Our choices are the guy who funded the genocide and the guy who thinks it's not enough. I would crush the peace movement. I would deport anyone who dares defy a foreign government. America second. America maybe second. Well, actually, Saudi Arabia has really helped Donald Trump a lot too. America third. Actually, Russia has also bought a lot of apartments from Donald Trump. Okay, America fourth. But after Israel, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and maybe some other foreign donors, then America will be at least fourth in the Trump administration. But don't worry, donors. You'll get any war you want. You'll get any murder and mayhem that you want. You'll get any robbery that you want because Donald Trump is desperate, a pathetic little boy, desperate to be in your club. So this is unfortunately the state of America. I love you guys. I wish I had better news, and I will one day. But today, an absolute horrific tragedy in Rafah, and still the American government and the Israeli government will not turn around. They think there's just not enough dead Palestinians. They must murder more and more. If you think this is not enough dead Palestinians, there's something deeply, deeply wrong with you. And look, maybe other parts of your life, you're a wonderful person, and it's possible because bias drives us to do terrible things. But your bias on this issue has led you to deep immorality. All right, those are the realities. That's the truth. Whether that truth makes you happy or unhappy is up to you. But there's no question about it. Go watch the videos of the children being burned to death if you disagree. And come back and tell me then, oh, no, I didn't mind. Israel has a right to defend itself by burning innocent civilians to death. But that's the argument you must make. That is the only argument you have if you think Israel should keep going in Gaza, that they haven't done enough. The bombs literally burn people to death. It is the worst kind of terrorism.